There we go. Long time no see. Hello, Mem. Hello, Lee. And hello for any of you that join us today. Hi. Back at it again. Nana said hi? That's awesome. Hello to your Nana. Now, before we begin, there's something fun that I would like to do. As 5 minutes before I hit the go live button, a mysterious package showed up at my room. And inside this package, there was something that I had been waiting for at least a few weeks now. Maybe less than a week, I don't know, it's been a while. But in my hands is my secret lair, Sonic the Hedgehog Magic the Gathering foil cards. And now, I'm gonna open him. Oh, they're free. It has a quote on the back that says, and I quote, "Oh yeah, this is happening." Happening with an apostrophe. I don't know if ASMR mode and normal mode and Sonic voice work hand in hand, but alright, we'll try that again. And the back of the package says, and I quote, "Oh yeah, this is happening." Oh. They're packaged so nicely. Nope. Oh, that's got some rings on it. It says, "Thank you for being a part of the secret lair." As we open the card pack, you know, some people would probably really enjoy opening packs on stream. I'm not made of money, however. So that will not be. Isn't the Master Emerald Shrine supposed to be rare? Oh. Or does everyone get one? Mine's also a foil. A rainbow foil Master Emerald Shrine. So I'm so excited. I have to sleeve these as soon as I can. Hide away, my precious. Hide away, my precious cards. I must keep you safe. Keep it secret. Safe. Anyway, how's everyone doing today? Haven't started yet, so we have time to sort of goof around. Alright, he was missing a few. What am I reading tonight? Well, as the title of the stream says, I just figured I'd get back into reading Lord of the Rings some more. Work on getting another chapter done tonight. Or more. No, you're good, Lee. I mean, it could be anything. There's a lot of Middle Earths, and I literally just opened a pack of Sonic cards. Let's go on an adventure. That's right, Lila. Good to see you, too. Oh, it's been a weird day. Like, there's so much happening in the world right now. It's kind of nuts, but me personally, I'm having a good day. Left work in exactly 8 hours. Got home. I treated myself to some nice food. Yeah. What say we get started with the book? There we go. With Chapter 2 of Book 2 in the Fellowship of the Ring. Hello, Artie. Welcome in. Hi. Yeah, literally right on time. Didn't have to deal with me pulling out the Sonic voice. So, here we go. Chapter 2. The Council of Elrond. And I'm doing alright. It's a weird kind of mood and energy, but like, I'm vibing. Sleep time? Perfect. That's what I'm here for. The fried ring to rule them all. Delicious in its power. Hi, Mochi. Next day, Frodo woke early, feeling refreshed and well. He walked along the terraces above the loud flowing Greenham and watched the pale, cool sun rise above the far mountains and shining down, slanting through the thin silver mist. The dew upon the yellow leaves was glimmering, and the woven nets of gossamer twinkled on every bush. Sam walked beside him, saying nothing, but sniffing the air, and looking every now and again with wonder in his eyes at the great heights in the east. Snow was white upon their peaks. On a seat cut in the stone, beside a turn in the path, they came upon Gandalf and Bilbo, deep in talk. "Hello, good morning," said Bilbo. "Feel ready for the Great Council?" "I feel ready for anything," answered Frodo. "But most of all, I should like to go walking today and explore the valley. I should like to get into those pine woods up there." He pointed away far up the side of Rivendell to the north. "You may have a chance later," said Gandalf, "but we cannot make any plans yet. There is much to hear and decide today." Suddenly, as they were talking, a single clear bell rang out. "That is the warning bell for the Council of Elrond," cried Gandalf. "Come along now. Both you and Bilbo are wanted." Frodo and Bilbo followed the wizard quickly along the winding path back to the house. Behind them, uninvited for the moment forgotten, trotted Sam. Gandalf led them to the porch, where Frodo had found his friends the evening before. "Hi, Salale. Great to see you. Welcome in." The light of the clear autumn morning was now glowing in the valley. The noise of bubbling waters came up from the foaming riverbed. Birds were singing, and a wholesome peace lay on the land. To Frodo, his dangerous flight and the rumors of the darkness growing in the world outside already seemed only the memories of a troubled dream, but the faces that were turned to meet them as they entered were grave. "Oh, he just came by to say hi. Sounds good, Soleil. Rest easy and take care. Have a good day at school. And hi, Vi. I see you there. What that little comfy emote. Very cute. Elrond was there, and several others were seated in silence about him. Frodo saw Glorfindel and Gloin, and in a corner alone, Strider was sitting, clad in his old travel-worn clothes again. Elrond drew Frodo to a seat by his side and presented him to the company, saying, "It's good emote. Hi, Julie. I should get a comfy emote. Do you have another slot, actually? Let's see. Here, my friends, is the Hobbit, Frodo, son of Drogo. You have ever come hither through greater peril or on an errand more urgent. Thanks for resubbing, Frank. He then pointed out and named those whom Frodo had not met before. There was a younger dwarf at Gloin's side, his son Gimli. Beside Glorfindel, there were several other counselors of Elrond's household, of whom Eristor was the chief, and with him was Galdor, an elf from the Grey Havens who had come on an errand from Círdan the Shipwright. There was also a strange elf clad in green and brown, Legolas, a messenger from his father, Thranduil, the king of the elves of northern Mirkwood, and seated a little apart was a tall man with a fair and noble face, dark-haired and gray-eyed, proud and stern of glance. He was cloaked and booted as if for a journey on horseback, and indeed, though his garments were rich and his cloak was lined with fur, they were stained with long travel. He had a collar of silver in which a single white stone was set. His locks were shorn about his shoulders. On a baldric he wore a great horn, tipped with silver that now was laid upon his knees. He gazed at Frodo and Bilbo with sudden wonder. "Here," said Elrond, turning to Gandalf, "is Boromir, a man from the south. He arrived in the grey morning and seeks for counsel. I have bidden him to be present, for his questions will be answered." Not all that much was spoken and debated in the council need now be told. Much was said of events in the world outside, especially in the south, and in the wide lands east of the mountains. Of these things Frodo had already heard many rumors, but the tale of Gloin was new to him, and when the dwarf spoke, he listened attentively. It appeared that amid the splendor of their works, of hand of the hearts of the dwarves of the lonely mountain were troubled. "It is now many years ago," said Gloin, "that the shadow of disquiet fell upon our people. Whence it came we did not at first perceive. Words began to be whispered in secret. It was said that we were hemmed in a narrow place, and that greater wealth and splendor would be found in a wider world. Some spoke of Moria, the mighty works of our fathers, that are called in our own tongue Khazad-dûm, and they declared that now at last we had the power and numbers to return." Gloin sighed. "Moria, Moria, wonder of the northern world. Too deep we delved there, and woke the nameless fear. Long have its vast mansions lain empty since the children of Durin fled. But now we spoke of it again with longing, and yet with dread, for no dwarf has dared to pass the door of Khazad-dûm for many lives of kings, save Thror only, and he perished. At last, however, Balin listened to the whispers and resolved to go, and though Dane did not give leave willingly, he took with him Ori and Oin and many of our folk, and they went away south. That was nigh on 30 years ago. For a while we had news, and it seemed good. Messages reported that Moria had been entered and the great work began there. Then there was silence, and no word has ever come from Moria since. Then about a year ago, a messenger came to Dane, but not from Moria, from Mordor, a horseman in the night who called Dane to his gate. The Lord Sauron the Great, so he said, wished for our friendship. Rings he would give for it, such as he gave of old, and he asked urgently concerning hobbits, of what kind they were and where they dwelt. For Sauron knows, said he, that one of these was known to you on a time. At this we were greatly troubled, and we gave no answer. And then his fell voice was lowered, and he would have sweetened it if he could. As a small token of your friendship, Sauron asks this, he said, that you should find this thief, such was his word, and get from him, willing or no, a little ring, the least of rings. At once he stole. It is but a trifle that Sauron fancies, and an earnest of your goodwill. Find it, and 3 rings that the dwarf sires possessed of old shall be returned to you. And the realm of Moria shall be yours forever. Find only news of the thief, whether he still lives and where, and you shall have great reward and lasting friendship from the Lord. Refuse, and things will not seem so well. Do you refuse? And that, his breath came like a hiss from snakes, and all who stood by shuddered. But Dane said, I say neither yea nor nay. I must consider this message and what it means under its fair cloak. Consider well, but not too long, said he. The time of my thought is my own to spend, answered Dane. For the present, said he, and rode into the darkness. Heavy have the hearts of our chieftains been since that night. We needed not the fell voice of the messenger to warn us that his word held both menace and deceit, for we knew already that the power that has re-entered Mordor has not changed, and ever it betrayed us of old. Twice the messenger has returned, and has gone unanswered. The third and last time, so he says, is soon to come for the ending of the year. And so I have been sent at last by Dane to warn Bilbo that he is sought by the enemy, and to learn, if may be, why he desires this ring, this least of rings. Also we crave the advice of Elrond, for the shadow grows and draws nearer. We discover that messengers have come also to King Brandon Dale, and that he is afraid. We fear that he may yield. Already war is gathering on his eastern borders. If we make no answer, the enemy may move men of his rule to assail King Brand, and Dane also. You have done well to come, said Elrond. You will hear today all that you need in order to understand the purposes of the enemy. There is naught you can do other than to resist, with hope or without it. But you do not stand alone. You will learn that your trouble is but part of the trouble of all the Western world. The ring. What shall we do with the ring, the least of rings? The trifle that Sauron fancies, that is the doom we must deem. That is the purpose for which you are called hither. Called, I say, Though I have not called you to me, strangers from distant lands, you have come here and are here met, in this very nick of time, by chance it may seem. Yet, it is not so. Believe rather that it is so ordered that we, who sit here and none others, must now find counsel for the peril of the world. Now, therefore, things shall be openly spoken that have been hidden from all but few until this day. And first, so that all may understand what is the peril, the tale of the ring shall be told from the beginning, even to this present, and I will begin that tale, though others shall end it. Then all listened while Elrond in his clear voice spoke of Sauron and the rings of power, and their forging in the second age of the world long ago. A part of his tale was known to some there, but the full tale to none, and many eyes returned to Elrond in fear and wonder as he told of the elven smiths of Eregion and their friendship with Moria, and their eagerness for knowledge, by which Sauron ensnared them. For in that time he was not yet evil to behold, and they received his aid and grew mighty in craft, whereas he learned all their secrets, and betrayed them, and forged secretly in the mountain of fire the one ring to be their master. But Celebrimbor was aware of him, and hid the three which he had made. And there was war, and the land was laid waste, and the gate of Moria was shut. Then, through all the years that followed, he traced the ring. But since that history was elsewhere recounted, even as Elrond himself set it down in his books of lore, it is not here recalled, for it is a long tale, full of deeds great and terrible, and briefly though Elrond spoke, the sun rode up the sky, and the morning was passing ere he ceased. Of Numenor he spoke, its glory and its fall, and the return of the kings of men to Middle-earth, out of the deeps of the sea, borne upon the wings of storm. Then Elendil the Tall and his mighty sons Isildur and Anarion became great lords, and the North Realm they made in armor, and the South Realm in Gondor, above the mouths of Anduin. But Sauron of Mordor assailed them, and they made the last alliance of elves and men, and the hosts of Gil-galad and Elendil were mustered in Arnor. Thereupon Elrond paused a while and sighed. I remember well the splendor of their banners, he said. It recalled to me the glory of the elder days, and the hosts of Beleriand, and so many great princes and captains were assembled, and yet not so many, no sore fair, as when Thangorodrim was broken, and the elves deemed that evil was ended forever, and it was not so. Remember? Said Frodo, speaking his thought aloud in his astonishment. But I thought, he stammered as Elrond turned toward him. I thought that the fall of Gil-galad was a long age ago. So it was indeed, answered Elrond gravely. But my memory reaches back even to the elder days. Eärendil was my sire, who was born of Gondolin before its fall, and my mother was Elwing, daughter of Dior, son of Luthien of Doriath. I have seen 3 ages in the west of the world, and many defeats, and many fruitless victories. I was the herald of Gil-galad, and marched with his host. I was at the battle of Dagorlad, before the Black Gate of Mordor, where we had the mastery, for the spear of Gil-galad and the sword of Elendil, Aegilos and Narsil, none could withstand. I beheld the last combat on the slopes of Orodreen, where Gil-galad died and Elendil fell, and Narsil broke beneath him, but Sauron himself was overthrown, and Isildur cut the ring from his hand with the hilt shard of his father's sword, and took it for his own. This stranger Boromir broke in. At this, the stranger Boromir broke in. "So that is what became of the ring," he cried. "If ever such a tale was told in the south, it has long been forgotten. I have heard of the great ring of him that we do not name, but we believe that it perished from the world in the ruin of his first realm. Isildur took it, and that is tidings indeed." "Alas, yes," said Elrond. "Isildur took it, as should not have been. It should have been cast then into Orodreen's fire nigh at hand, where it was made. But few marked what Isildur did. He alone stood by his father in that last mortal contest, and by Gil-galad only Círdan stood, and I. But Isildur would not listen to our counsel. This I will have as Wergild for my father and my brother," he said, "and therefore whether we would or no, he took it to treasure it. But soon he was betrayed by it to his death, and so it is named by the North Isildur's Bane." "That making food? That's wonderfully." "So it is named in the north, Isildur's Bane. Yet death maybe was better than what else might have befallen him. Only to the north did these tidings come, and only to a few. Small wonder is it that you have not heard them, Boromir. From the ruin of the Gladden fields where Isildur perished, 3 men only came ever back over the mountains after long wandering. One of these was Otar, the esquire of Isildur, who bore the shards of the sword of Elendil, and he brought them to Valandil, the heir of Isildur, who being but a child, had remained here in Rivendell. But Narsil was broken, and its light extinguished, and it has not yet been forged again. Fruitless did I call the victory of the last alliance. No, fruitless did I call the victory of the last alliance? Not wholly so, yet it did not achieve its end. Sauron was diminished, but not destroyed. His ring was lost, but not unmade. The Dark Tower was broken, but its foundations were not removed, for they were made with the power of the ring, and while it remains, they will endure. Many elves and many mighty men, and many of their friends had perished in the war. Anarion was slain, and Isildur was slain, and Gil-galad and Elendil were no more. Never again shall there be any such league of elves and men, for men multiply, and their firstborn decrease. And the 2 kindreds are estranged. And ever since that day the race of Númenor has decayed, and the span of their years has lessened. In the north after the war, and the slaughter of the Gladden fields, the men of Western East were diminished, and their city of Anuminas beside Lake Evendim fell into ruin, and the heirs of Valandil removed, and dwelt at Fornost at the high north downs. And now that too is desolate. Men call it Dead Man's Dyke, and they fear to tread there. For the folk of Arnor dwindled, and their foes devoured them, and their lordship passed, leaving only green mounds in the grassy hills. In the south, the realm of Gondor long endured, and for a while its splendor grew, recalling somewhat of the might of Numenor ere it fell. High towers that people built, and strong places, and havens of many ships, and the winged crown of the kings of men was held in awe by folks of many tongues. Their chief city was Osgiliath, the citadel of the stars. Through the midst of the river flowed, and Minas Ithil they built, tower of the rising moon, eastward upon the shoulder of the mountains of shadow, and westward at the feet of white mountains, Minas Anor they made, tower of the setting sun. There, in the courts of the king, grew a white tree, from the seed of the tree which Isildur brought over the deep waters, and the seed of that tree before came from Eurasia. Eurasia. That's it. And before that, out in the uttermost west, in the day before days, when the world was young. Alright, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and take a small break for now. I'm going to drink some water. You all hang tight, and I will be right back to read some more for you guys. Dun dun. Alright. Back to it. Here we go. But, highly, in the wearing of the swift years of Middle-earth, the line of Meneldiel, son of Anarion, failed, and the tree withered, and the blood of the Númenóreans became mingled with that of lesser men. Then the watch upon the walls of Mordor slept, and dark things crept back to Gorgoroth. And on the time evil things came forth, and they took Minas Ithil and abode in it, and they made it into a place of dread, and it is called Minas Morgul, the Tower of Sorcery. Then Minas Anor was named anew Minas Tirith, the Tower of God, and these two cities were ever at war. But Osgiliath, which lay between, was deserted, and in its ruins shadows walked. So it has been for many lives of men, but the lords of Minas Tirith still fight on, defying our enemies, keeping the passage of the river from Argonath to the sea. And now that part of the tale that I shall tell is drawn to its close, for in the days of Isildur, the ruling ring passed out of all knowledge, and the three were released from its dominion. But now, in this latter day, they are in peril once more, for to our sorrow, the one has been found. Others shall speak of its finding, for in that I played a small part. Sometimes I feel like my eyelashes are a little too long. Sometimes they like to kinda stick together. It's a little rough sometimes. He ceased, but at once Boromir stood up, tall and proud before them. "Give me leave, Master Elrond," said he, "first to say more of Gondor, for verily from the land of Gondor I am come, and it would be well for all to know what passes there, for few, I deem, know of our deeds, and therefore guess little at their peril, if we should fail at last. Believe not that in the land of Gondor the blood of Númenor was spent, nor all its pride and dignity forgotten. By our valor, the wild folk of the east are still restrained, and the terror of Morgul kept at bay, and thus alone are we, peace and freedom maintained, in the lands behind us, bulwark of the west. But if the passages of the rivers should be won, what then? Yet that hour, maybe, is not now far away. The nameless enemy has arisen again. Smoke rises once more from old Druin that we call Mount Doom. The power of the Black Land grows, and we are hard beset. When the enemy returned, our folk were driven from Ithilien, our fair domain east of the river, though we kept a foothold there and strength of arms. By this very year, in the days of June, sudden war came upon us out of Mordor, and we were swept away. Food's almost done? Wonderful. Good to hear. Where was I? There we are. We were outnumbered, for Mordor has allied itself with the Easternlings and cruel Haradrim. But it was not by numbers that we were defeated. A power was there that we have not felt before. Some said that it could be seen, like a great black horseman, a dark shadow under the moon. Wherever he came, a madness filled our foes, but fear fell on our boldest, so that horse and man gave way and fled. Only a remnant of our eastern force came back, destroying the last bridge that still stood amid the ruins of Osgiliath. Thank you, Cor. It seemed fitting for Lord of the Rings. So hi, welcome in, Cor. I was in the company that held the bridge until it was cast down behind us. 4 only were saved by swimming, my brother and myself and 2 others. But still, we fight on, holding all the west shores of Anduin, and those who shelter behind us give us praise, if ever they hear our name. Much praise, but little help. Only from Rohan now will any men ride to us when we call. In this evil hour, I have come on an errand over many dangerous leagues to Elrond. 110 days I have journeyed. All alone, but I do not seek allies in war. The might of Elrond is in wisdom, not in weapons, it is said. I come to ask for counsel and the unraveling of hard words, for on the eve of the sudden assault a dream came to my brother in a troubled sleep, and afterwards a like dream came off to him again, and once to me. In that dream I thought the eastern sky grew dark, and there was a growing thunder, but in the west a pale light lingered, and out of it I heard a voice, remote but clear, saying, "Seek for the sword that was broken. In Imladris it dwells. There shall be counsels taken, stronger than Morgul's spells. There shall be shown a token that doom is near at hand. For Isildur's bane shall waken, and the halfling forth shall stand." Of these words we could understand little, and we spoke to our father, Denethor, Lord of Minas Tirith, wise in the lore of Gondor. This only would he say, that Imladris was of old the name among the elves of the far northern dale, where Elrond of Helvin dwelt, greatest of lore masters. Therefore my brother, seeing how desperate was our need, was eager to heed the dream and seek for Imladris. But since the way was full of doubt and danger, I took the journey upon myself. Loath was my father to give me leave, and long have I wandered by roads forgotten, seeking the house of Elrond, of which many have heard, but few knew where it lay. "And here in the house of Elrond more shall be made clear to you," said Aragorn, standing up. He cast his sword upon the table that stood before Elrond, and the blade was in 2 pieces. "Here is the sword that was broken," he said. "And who are you? And what have you to do with Minas Tirith?" asked Boromir, looking in wonder at the lean face of the ranger and his weather-stained cloak. "He is Aragorn, son of Arathorn," said Elrond, "and he is descended through many fathers from Isildur Elendil's son of Minas Ithil. He is the chief of Dunedain in the north, and few are now left of that folk." "And it belongs to you, and not to me at all," cried Frodo in amazement, springing to his feet as if he expected the ring to be demanded at once. "It does not belong to either of us," said Aragorn, "but it has been ordained that you should hold it for a while." "Bring out the ring, Frodo," said Gandalf solemnly. "The time has come. Hold it up, and then Boromir will understand the remainder of his riddle." There was a hush, and all turned their eyes on Frodo. He was shaken by a sudden shame and fear, and he felt a great reluctance to reveal the ring, and a loathing of its touch. He wished he was far away. The ring gleamed and flickered as he held it up before them in his trembling hand. "Behold, Isildur's bane," said Elrond. Boromir's eyes glinted as he gazed at the golden thing. "A halfling," he muttered. "Is then the doom of Minas Tirith come at last? But why then should we seek a broken sword?" "The words were not the doom of Minas Tirith," said Aragorn, "but doom and great deeds are indeed at hand, for the sword that was the broken is the sword of Elendil, that broke beneath him when he fell. It has been treasured by his heirs when all other heirlooms were lost, for it was spoken of old among us that it should be made again when the ring, Isildur's bane, was found. Now you have seen the sword that you have sought. What would you ask? Do you wish for the house of Elendil to return to the land of Gondor? Enjoy your lurkor. I was not sent to beg any boon, but to seek only the meaning of a riddle, answered Boromir proudly. Yet we are hard-pressed, and the sword of Elendil would be a help beyond our hope, if such a thing could indeed return out of the shadows of the past. He looked again at Aragorn, and doubt was in his eyes. Frodo felt Bilbo stir impatiently at his side. Evidently, he was annoyed on his friend's behalf. Suddenly standing up, he burst out. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The oak that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadow shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king. Not very good perhaps, but to the point. If you need more beyond the word of Elrond, if that was a journey of 110 days to hear, you had better listen. He sat down with a snort. I made that up myself, he whispered to Frodo, for the Dunedain, a long time ago when he first told me about himself. I almost wish that my adventures were not over, and that I could go with him when his day comes. Aragorn smiled at him. Then he turned to Boromir again. For my part, I forgive your doubt, he said. Little do I resemble the figures of Elendil and Isildur, as they stand carven in their majesty in the halls of Denethor. I am but the heir of Isildur, not Isildur himself. I have had a hard life, and a long, and the leagues that lie between here and Gondor are a small part in the count of my journeys. I have crossed of many mountains and many rivers, and trodden many plains, even to the far countries of Arun and Harad, where the stars are strange. But my home, such as I have, is in the north, for here the heirs of Valandil have ever dwelt in long line unbroken, from father unto son for many generations. Our days have darkened, and we have dwindled, but ever the sword has passed to a new keeper. And I will say this to you, Boromir, ere I end. Lonely men are we, rangers of the wild, hunters, but hunters ever of the servants of the enemy, for they are found in many places, not in Mordor only. If Gondor, Boromir has been a stalwart tower, we have played another part. Many evil things there are that your strong walls and bright swords do not stay. You know little of the lands beyond your bounds. Peace and freedom, do you say? The North would have known them little, but for us, fear would have destroyed them. But when dark things come from the houseless hills, or creep from sunless woods, they fly from us. What roads would any dare to tread? What safety would there be in a quiet lands, or in the homes of simple men at night, if the Dunedain were asleep, or were all gone into the grave? And yet, less thanks have we than you. Travelers scowl at us, and countrymen give us scornful names. Strider, I am to one fat man who lives within a day's march of foes, and would freeze his heart or lay his little town in ruin, if he were not guarded ceaselessly. Yet, we would not have it otherwise. If simple folk are free from care and fear, simple they will be, and we must be secret to keep them so. That has been the task of my kindred, while the years have lengthened and the grass has grown. Glad your food is goodly. What'd you make? Now the world is changing once again. A new hour comes. Isildur's bane is found. Battle is at hand. The sword shall be reforged. I will come to Minas Tirith. Isildur's bane is found, you say, said Boromir. I have seen a bright ring in a halfling's hand. Isildur perished ere this age of the world began, they say. How do the wise know that this ring is his? And how has it passed down the years? It is brought hither by so strange a messenger. That shall be told, said Elrond. But not yet, I beg, master, cried Bilbo. Already the sun is climbing to noon, and I feel the need of something to strengthen me. I had not named you, said Elrond, smiling, but I do so now. Come, tell us your tale, and if you not yet cast your story into verse, you may tell it in plain words. The briefer, the sooner shall you be refreshed. Very well, said Bilbo. I will do as you bid. But I will now tell the true story, and if some here have heard me tell it otherwise, he looked sidelong at Gloin, I ask them to forget it and forgive me. I only wish to claim the treasure as my very own in those days, and to be rid of the name of thief that was put on me. But perhaps I understand things a little better now. Anyway, this is what happened. To some there Bilbo's tale was wholly new, and they listened with amazement, while the old hobbit, actually not all that displeased, recounted his adventure with Gollum at full length. He did not omit a single riddle. He would have given also an account of his party and disappearance from the Shire if he had been allowed, but Elrond raised his hand. Well told, my friend, he said, but that is enough at this time. For the moment, it suffices to note that the ring passed to Frodo, your heir. Let him now speak. Then, less willingly than Bilbo, Frodo told of all his dealings with the ring from the day that it passed into his keeping. Every step of his journey from Hobbiton to the ford of Breenan was questioned and considered, and everything that he could recall concerning the Black Riders was examined. At last, he sat down again. Not bad, Bilbo said to him. You would have made a good story of it, if they hadn't kept on interrupting. I tried to make a few notes, but we shall have to go over it all again together sometime, if I'm up to write it up. There are whole chapters of stuff before you ever got here. Yes, it made quite a long tale, answered Frodo, but the story still does not seem complete to me. I still want to know a good deal, especially about Gandalf. Eldor of the Havens, who sat nearby, overheard him. You speak for me also, he cried, and turning to Elrond he said, The wise may have good reason to believe that the halfling's trove is indeed the great ring of long debate, unlikely though it may seem to those who know less. But may we not hear the proofs? And I would ask this also. What of Saruman? He is learned in the lore of the rings, yet he is not among us. What is his counsel, if he knows the things that we have heard? Questions that you ask, Galdor, are bound together, said Elrond. I had not overlooked them, and they shall be answered. But these things is the part of Gandalf to make clear, and I call upon him last, for it is the place of honor. In all this matter, he has been the chief. Some, Galdor, said Gandalf, would think the tidings of Gloin and the pursuit of Frodo proof enough that the halfling's trove is a thing of great worth to the enemy. Yet it is a ring. What then? The 9 the Nazgul keep, the 7 are taken or destroyed, and this Gloin stirred but did not speak. The 3 we know of. What then is this one that he desires so much? There is indeed a wide waste of time between the river and the mountains, between the loss and the finding, but the gap in the knowledge of the wise has been filled at last, yet too slowly, for the enemy has been close behind, closer even than I feared. And well is it that not until this year, this very summer, as it seems, did he learn the full truth. Some here will remember that many years ago, I myself dared to pass the doors of the necromancer in Dol Guldur, and secretly explored his ways, and found thus that our fears were true. He was none other than Sauron, our enemy of old, at length taking shape and power again. Some, too, will remember also that Saruman dissuaded us from open deeds against him, and for long we watched him only. Yet at last, as his shadow grew, Saruman yielded, and the council put forth its strength and drove the evil out of Mirkwood, and that was in the very year of the finding of this ring. A strange chance, if chance it was. But we were too late. As Elrond foresaw, Sauron also had watched us, and had long prepared against our stroke, governing Mordor from afar through Minas Morgul, where his 9 servants dwelt, until all was ready. Then he gave way before us, but only feigned to flee, and soon after came to the Dark Tower and openly declared himself. Then for the last time the council met, for now we learned that he was seeking ever more eagerly for the One. We feared that he had some news of it that we knew nothing of, but Saruman said nay, and repeated what he had said to us before, that the One would never again be found in Middle-earth. At the worst, said he, our enemy knows that we have it not, and that it still is lost, but what was lost may yet be found, he thinks. Fear not, his hope will cheat him. Have I not earnestly studied this matter? Into Anduin the Great it fell, and long ago, while Sauron slept, it was rolled down the river to the sea. There let it lie until the end. Gandalf fell silent, gazing eastward from the porch to the far peaks of the misty mountains, at whose great roots the peril of the world had so long lain hidden. He sighed. There, I was at fault, he said. I was lulled by the words of Saruman the Wise, but I should have sought for the truth sooner, and our peril would now be less. You were all at fault, said Elrond. And but for your vigilance, of the darkness maybe would already be upon us. But say on. From the first my heart misgave me, against all reason that I knew, said Gandalf, and I desired to know how this thing came to Gollum, and how long he had possessed it. So I set a watch for him, guessing that he would ere long come forth from his darkness to seek his treasure. He came, but he escaped, and was not found. And then, alas, I let the matter rest, watching and waiting only as we have too often done. Time passed with many cares, until my doubts were awakened again to sudden fear. Whence came the hobbit's ring? What, if my fear was true, should be done with it? Those things I must decide. But I spoke yet of my dread to none, knowing the peril of the untimely whisper, if it went astray. In all the long wars with the Dark Tower, treason has ever been our greatest foe. That was 17 years ago. Soon I became aware that spies of many sorts, even beasts and birds, were gathered round the Shire, and my fear grew. I called for help from the Dunedain, and their watch was doubled, and I opened my heart to Aragorn, the heir of Isildur. Hello, Jam Jam. Welcome in. Always with the licking. You're adorable. And I, said Aragorn, counseled that we should hunt for Gollum. Too late though it may seem, and since it seemed fit that Isildur's heir should labor to repair Isildur's fault, I went with Gandalf and the long and hopeless search. Well, aren't you just a darling to say so, Jam Jam? Then Gandalf told how they had explored the whole length of the Wilderland, down even to the mountains of Shadow and the fences of Mordor. There we had rumors of him, and we guessed that he dwelt there long in the dark hills, but we never found him. And at last I despaired, and then in my despair I thought again of a test that might make the finding of Gollum unneeded. The ring itself might tell if it were the one. The memory of words at the council came back to me, words of Saruman, half heeded at the time. I heard them now clearly in my heart. The 9, the 7, and the 3, he said, had each their proper gem. Not so the one. It was round and unadorned, as it were one of the lesser rings. But its maker set marks upon it that the skilled, maybe, could still see and read. What those marks were he had not said. Who now would know? The maker. And Saruman? But great though his lore may be, it must have a source. What hand save Sauron's ever held this thing, ere it was lost? The hand of Isildur alone. With that thought, I forsook the chase, and passed swiftly to Gondor. In former days the members of my order had been well received there, but Saruman most of all. Often he had been for long the guest of the lords of the city. Less welcome did the Lord Denethor show me. And then of old, and grudgingly he permitted me to search among his hoarded scrolls and books. Rest well, Artemis. Can't get over. I'm just glad it's working. Sleep well. If indeed you look only, as you say, for records of ancient days and beginnings of the city, read on, he said. For to me, what it was is less dark than what is to come, and that is my care. But unless you have more skill even than Saruman, who has studied here long, you will find naught that is not well known to me, who am master of the lore of this city. Good night, Julie. Sleep well. So said Denethor, and yet there lie in his hoards many records that few even of the lore masters now can read, for their scripts and tongues have become dark to later men. And Boromir, there lies in Minas Tirith still, unread I guess, by any save Saruman and myself since the kings failed, a scroll that Isildur made himself, for Isildur did not march away straight from the war in Mordor, as some have told the tale. Some in the north, maybe. Boromir broke in. All know in Gondor that he went first to Minas Anor and dwelt a while with his nephew Meneldiel, instructing him before he committed to him the rule of the South Kingdom. In that time he planted there the last sapling of the white tree in memory of his brother. But in that time he also made this scroll, said Gandalf, and that is not remembered in Gondor, it would seem, for this scroll concerns the ring, and thus wrote Isildur therein. The great ring shall go now to be an heirloom of the North Kingdom, but records of it shall be left in Gondor, where also dwell the heirs of Elendil, lest a time come when the memory of the great matter shall grow dim. And after these words Isildur described the ring, such as he found it. It was hot when I first took it, hot as a gleed, and my hand was scorched, so that I doubt if I ever again I shall be free of the pain of it. Yet even as I write it is cooled, and it seemeth to shrink, though it loseth neither its beauty nor its shape. Already the writing upon it, which at first was clear as red flame, fadeth and is now only barely to read. It is fashioned in an elven script of Eregion, for they have no letters in Mordor for such subtle work. But the language is unknown to me. I deem it to be the tongue of the Black Land, since it is foul and uncouth. What evil it saith I do not know, but I trace here a copy of it, lest it fade beyond recall. The ring misseth, maybe, the heat of Sauron's hand, which was black and yet burned like fire, and so Gil-galad was destroyed. And maybe were the gold made hot again, the writing would be refreshed. But for my part, I will risk no hurt to this thing. Of all my works of Sauron, the only fair. It is precious to me, though I buy it with great pain. Is that word? Precious. My precious. When I read those words, my quest was ended, for the traced writing was indeed as Isildur guessed, in the tongue of Mordor and the servants of the tower, and what was said therein was already known. For in the day that Sauron first put on the one, Celebrimbor, maker of the three, was aware of him, and from afar he heard him speak these words, and so his evil purposes were revealed. I'll work on it, Frank. I loathe to think about how many channel points all my Twitch viewers have. Just waiting and amassing and piling them on, especially you. You, train conductor, who go and constantly amass those points, hoarding them all. That multiplier must be huge, actually. Oh no. Want to cause chaos? We'll see what I add. There's plenty of things, like there's the throwing system, there's the beams. Something to think about and consider. We'll get there. At once I took my leave of Denethor, but even as I went northwards, messages came to me out of Lorien that Aragorn had passed that way, and that he had found the creature called Gollum. Therefore I went first to meet him and hear his tale. Into what deadly perils he had gone alone, I dared not guess. There is little need to tell them, said Aragorn. If a man must needs walk in sight of the Black Gate, or tread the deadly flowers of Morgul Vale, then perils he will have. I too despaired at last, and began my homeward journey. And then, by fortune, I came suddenly on what I sought, the marks of soft feet beside a muddy pool. But now the trail was fresh and swift, and it led not to Mordor, but away. Along the skirts of the dead marshes I followed it, and then I had him, lurking by a stagnant mere, peering into the water as the dark eve fell. I caught him. Gollum. He was covered with green slime. He will never love me, I fear, for he bit me, and I was not gentle. Nothing more did I ever get from his mouth than the marks of his teeth. I deemed it the worst part of all my journey, the road back, watching him day and night, making him walk before me with the halter on his neck, gagged until he was tamed by lack of drink and food, driving him ever towards Mirkwood. I brought him there at last and gave him to the elves, for we had agreed that this should be done. And I was glad to be rid of his company, for he stank. For my part, I hope never to look upon him again. But Gandalf came and endured long speech with him. I didn't like him. He was very stinky. Yes, long and weary, said Gandalf, but not without profit. For one thing, the tale he told of his loss agreed with that which Bilbo has now told openly for the first time. But that mattered little, since I had already guessed it. And then I learned that first, that Gollum's ring came from the great river nigh to the Gladden Fields, and I learned also that he had possessed it long. Many lives of his small kind. Hi, Kate. It's great to see you. I hope you also have a wonderful day or night. Miss you. The power of the ring had lengthened his years far beyond their span, but that power only the great rings wield. And if that is not proof enough, Galdor, there is the other test that I spoke of. On this very ring, which you have here seen held aloft, round and unadorned, the letters that he sealed or reported may still be read, if one has the strength of will to set the golden thing in a fire for a while. That I have done, and this I have read. Ashnazg Durbataluk, Ashnazg Gimbatul, Ashnazg Drakul Tuluk, Achburzum Ishi Krimpatul. Change in the wizard's voice was astounding. Suddenly, it became menacing, powerful, harsh as stone. A shadow seemed to pass over the high sun, and the porch for a moment grew dark. All trembled, and the elves stopped their ears. Never before has any voice dared to utter the words of that tongue in Imladris Gandalf the Grey, said Elrond, and the shadow passed, and the company breathed once more. And let us hope that none will ever speak it here again, answered Gandalf. Nonetheless, I do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond, for if that tongue is not soon to be heard in every corner of the West, then let all put doubt aside that this thing is indeed what the wise have declared, the treasure of the enemy, fraught with all his malice, and in it lies a great part of his strength of old. Out of the black ears come the words of the smiths of Eregion, heard and knew that they had all been betrayed. One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in darkness bind them. Know also, my friends, that I learned more yet from Gollum. He was loath to speak, and his tale was unclear, but it is beyond all doubt that he went to Mordor. And there all that he knew was forced from him. Thus the enemy knows that the one is found, and that it was long in the Shire. And since his servants have pursued it almost to our door, we soon will know, already he may know, even as I speak, that we have it here. That's a lot of pages. I know it hasn't been that long, but I do find myself kind of tired. So I will go ahead and put a little bookmark in so I can remember it this time, and go ahead and call it a night. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on by. Hope you all enjoyed and that you get to rest easy for the rest of your night. I'll catch you all later. Probably tomorrow, honestly. And yeah, I'll probably get back into Deltarune again. Rest easy. Take care. Thank you.